Coming up on Unpacked.
And then his mom is like, no, they're living in sin and they have to get married.
When you say to your parents, guys, thank you so much, but I don't want to get married, what is the response?
It's like they're not listening to me. They're telling me why I have to. And she's like, kazi, and you don't even tell us.
Yes.
I'm like, what? She's like, yes, we're ready to invite you. Your dad sent everybody invites. He's busy showing off to everyone. Yes. And at that point, I had given up.
Marriage should be something that is a choice between two consenting adults. But in today's episode, we're going to be discussing being forced into marriage by your family. Our guest is here to share her story. Let's unpack. Faith Makubung is a 27-year-old radio DJ on one of the country's most popular stations. Born to religious and stern parents, Faith spent her early years trying to cut the umbilical cord, one of which was her parents forcing her into marriage. This is her story. Let's unpack. Faith, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys so much for having me, actually. I didn't think you guys were going to get back to me, to be honest. But I'm glad you did.
Here you are. So let's go back right to the beginning of the story. How did you and your partner then meet and start dating?
So my partner and I actually went to high school together. We went from grade 8 till matric. And I remember in matric, we dated for about a month or 2 months and it wasn't anything serious.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, we broke up. I remember in matric, his father passed away. And then he kind of just became somebody different. I became somebody different. We went our separate ways. Then we rekindled our relationship in 2014, around this time, September, spring. And then, we basically just started dating. We moved in together, and then things just went south from there.
Yeah. So what were the early days of the relationship like? And I'm talking when you guys got together as adults and were dating. What was the love like?
You know, we weren't adults. The two of us were very young at the time. Yeah. And he's actually 1 year younger than me. So you know how they say girls, boys, maturity?
Yes.
So I don't think that we had adult minds at that time. We were just acting as children. And I feel like we just wanted to relive something that could have been in the past. And we kind of were just trying to use this, we're grown now, we can just date type of situation. So,
Was there a time in the relationship that things were just happy and wonderful and compatible?
I'd like to say that they were. I mean, I was in love with him for the most part of it. And I think it was a very toxic love from the both of us. Yeah. Because on his side, it was more of control, obsession almost. And I'm saying these words now because I'm in therapy, and it's because of that therapy that I was able to label certain things to say, you know, that when that was happening, that's not really how relationships are supposed to be. So it was more of like, there was a lot of insecurities in that relationship. We were happy, but we were not really like compatible, if I should actually put it like that.
Yes. As in you would clash often.
We would clash about grown-up stuff. For instance, insecurities. If this is actually something that happened about 2 weeks into us dating, we were hanging out in my neighborhood. I grew up in Centurion. And it's a neighborhood that I grew up in, and I had a lot of friends from my childhood. So it's a new neighborhood in terms of he's got friends now there, right? So we get there, we're hanging out at his friend's house for this braai. And one of my childhood friends, which is one of his new friends now, comes and embraces me and he gives me a hug. And I think that's when everything just started becoming very sketchy, because once we embraced each other, we said hi, and I said hi to the other guys that I knew, then he pulled me like in front of everyone and he was like, what are you doing? Why are you disrespecting me like that? Like, why are you hugging him like that? Why do you have to hug these guys? Like, they're not your friends. And I was just like, in my head, I'm thinking, I actually knew these guys before I knew you. But anyway, so in that moment, I think I kind of shrunk instead of like speaking up for myself. And I think that's when he realized, oh, okay, so I think I can actually like reprimand her in front of people.
So there were some issues, you guys dated, and then what happened that led you guys to deciding to live together?
So September we're dating. I was studying at UJ Soweto campus at the time, and he had told me that he was working, he was in business at the time. I wasn't really like obsessed with finding out what he was doing. As long as he was making a living, I was fine with that. When I was on campus, I remember I used to work at a jewelry store, like part-time. So on weekends, I'd go home and visit my family. But then those weekends became his weekends, right? And then eventually he was just like, dude, like, you don't need to be working. Like, if you need extra money for this and that, like you say you have this job for, I can help you out with that, you know? So we're in love. I'm just like, okay, cool. My man is trying to like, you know, help me out. Young and dumb, cool. I quit my job, and then I'm a full-time student now. I'm not really working part-time. In December, I tell him, we actually went out, and I tell him, I'm like, so listen, next year, my plan is I'm moving in with my best friend. We planned that third year we were going to rent an apartment together. And at the time, I was on student loan. So I had the power because I know when I finish studying, I'm going to pay the money back, right? So when I told him that, his reaction changed. He got upset. He started threatening that he's going to break up with me. And like, now I'm listening to this. I'm like, but why? Like, what did I do? And he's just like, no, like, if you start living with your friend, you guys are going to be throwing parties. You're going to have boys over. The insecurity comes back up again. And then I kind of just like, okay, fine. What do you want me to do? I remember I was crying at Rocco Balba's or whatever that Rock's restaurant was. And I was like, so what do you want me to do? Do you want us to move in together? And then he's like, I would actually sacrifice. So now this is where the manipulation comes in. He's like, I would actually sacrifice coming to stay in Soweto with you so that we can stay together, but you wouldn't do that for me. And then it was like, okay, cool, then let's just stay together then. Now I agree to this, and now I'm realizing, oh shit, I have to go home and tell my parents that like I'm going to be living with my boyfriend. So I don't. I keep it a secret. I continue letting them believe that I'm going to be staying with my best friend. And January comes, it's varsity time. We have to go and start getting ready. Fine, me and him prep our little apartment that we're going to be staying in, my little 2-bedroom, to say, okay, one room is my friend's, one room is mine, so that I can keep up this facade for my parents. And then I remember, I think my mom is a very prayerful woman. And she always tells me, like, she told me, she's like, I prayed so that you can tell me the truth. And then eventually, like, I remember it just like, the relationship itself started to crumble because I started to see how it was very toxic. And I think in that moment, I wanted my parents to rescue me. So I was like, okay, let me tell my mom and my dad what's going on, and let me see what kind of advice they can give us. Like, sure, we can still date, but like maybe it will be more structured, because I feel like we're out of control and we weigh in over our heads at this point, right? In March, I call my parents, they come over to our place, I tell them, my parents immediately, I remember they were eating, they stopped eating. They were like so disappointed in me. And then my dad was like, so what's gonna happen? And then my dad was like, you know what, let's not talk about it. Your mom and I will go talk at home, and then we'll come back to you. Okay, but what we want is for you to leave with us. And then I was like, no, I don't want to leave with you guys. You know, I want to stay here. My life is here now. Like, this is what the life that I've chosen, you know, I'm being a big girl now. I'm owning up. I'm like, no, guys, I don't want to leave. I remember it was really dramatic. And my dad was like, do you understand that, like, if we leave here now, like, we're done with you? Like, I remember those were his words, like, we leave here, you're going to live this life, and this life of sin, or whatever he said at the time.
So like, what was the issue that they were upset about? Was it the fact that you're living with someone you're not married to, or was it the fact that you didn't tell them you're living with them, or was him, or was it the fact that you're young and you should be focusing on school? What was the issue?
I guess it's a combination of all of them. But the main thing that they said to me verbally was, you guys are living in sin. You're not supposed to be living with your boyfriend. If you guys want to get married, you should get married. And I remember I was like, no, but we don't want to get married. We just started dating. And the thing is, they don't know the timeline of this relationship. They're thinking, oh, these people have been doing this for long. And I'm like, no, like, actually, like, we don't want to get married. We just want to date, and we're just letting you guys know. In my head, I'm thinking they're going to be like white parents. And be like, oh, okay, cool. We know your boyfriend. And we know now if you're not around, you're with your boyfriend. But they didn't take it that way. They were just like, you know what? Okay, cool. We're going to leave and talk about this, and then we'll get back to you. Them getting back to me is my dad sending me a long email. He had a high price of a lobola, and he was like, he wants us, he's like, he wants to meet, no, rather before the lobola, he first said he wants to meet with my boyfriend at the time, my family, right? Because they thought he had both parents. And then I was like, okay, cool, we can arrange a meeting. I told him, he's like, cool, let's arrange a meeting. His mom came with her sister, and it was my parents and the two of us, right? We're sitting, we're having dinner, we're discussing the situation, right? And then they were like, okay, so what's happening? So his mom knew that we were living together.
Yeah.
She actually was very embracing about it. She
Yeah.
was that white parent's reaction, you know, to say, oh, no, he's always had girlfriends, but you're basically the first girlfriend that he's really brought home. So clearly he's serious about you guys. Cool, whatever. That goes over my head. When we're sitting down, we have dinner, and then eventually they like, okay, cool, so what are we going to do about the situation? And then his mom is like, no, they're living in sin, and they have to get married.
Yeah.
And then I was like, no, we don't have to get married. We can just like continue how we're going. If we decide to get married, then we'll get married on our own terms. But like, we don't have to get married. And then that's when my parents interjected. They were like, you know what? That's a good idea. Like, I'm a pastor. I don't condone this. I need my daughter to know. Like, imagine people are going to say, my daughter's out there living with a boyfriend. What kind of an, image is that putting out there?
Yeah.
So they agreed. They were like, no, you guys are going to get married. I remember at that point, the two of us were fighting. We were just like, no, guys, like, really, we're trying to reason. It's not necessary for us to get married. And then they were just like, well, we're going to do it on the 15th of May, because this is now in March. We're going to do it on the 15th of May. That year, my birthday was on a Sunday. And they were like, yeah, we're going to do it on the Sunday at our church. Like, there's this thing where if you're getting married, you have an engagement, and then your fiance is in the crowd, and they call you to the stage, and they're like, Faith, go find your man. And then you go find your man. So they were planning that. They were like, no, we're going to do an engagement announcement on the 15th.
So how did they even choose the date?
Because of my birthday. That was coming up. So
they just decided around your birthday, let's 100%. Do it then. We'll do something in church.
They were like, on that day, we're even going to do signing because it's easy. I mean, my parents are pastors. Their friend is a marriage officer, so he can just like officiate that it's easy, you know? So I remember I was just like, no, guys, like, I don't think that this is a good idea. I remember eventually our voices were like overpowered by the adults at the table.
Yeah.
That meeting didn't go great, and then we all went our separate ways. And I remember it was around the same time where now, I think after that meeting, it's where his pressure, my boyfriend was like, I want a baby. He kept on saying, I want a baby, I want a baby.
And you were how old at the time?
2015. Oh, God. I think I was 21 or 20. I was 21, he was 20.
Yes. You're still quite young.
Yeah. And this is what, we're not even 6 months into this relationship properly, you know?
Yeah.
So he's like, no, I want a baby. And I was like to him, no, dude, like, do you understand what's happening right now? Our parents are trying to get us to get married. We need to actually let them chill with that and then focus on ourselves. I'm studying, you know? He rests that case. In April, my cousin sends me a text, and she's like, Kazi, go to Wanyala, and you don't even tell us.
Yes.
I'm like, what? She's like, yes, we're ready to invite you. Your dad sent everybody invites. He's busy showing off to everyone. It's one of those cousins who will just be like, blunt. And I'm like, you lying. And she's like, I promise you. I'm like, girl, I am not getting married. Like, that's where I ended that. I was like, dude, I'm not getting married.
Yeah.
I'm living with my boyfriend, yes, but I'm not getting married.
Did you decide to confront your parents?
I didn't even get a chance. The email came. I think within those days, the email came. And then my dad had this long email where he was just like, this is going to be your lobola. What you and your man are deciding to do, we can't stop you guys. So from this point onwards, this is the procedure that's going to go forward.
Yes.
You know? And then I was just like, no. First of all, you don't just make claims of like how much you're going to make my dowry.
Yes.
Secondly, we were raised religious. You guys always told us we are not traditional, we're religious. So why is it that now we have to go traditional for me to be able to get married? You're telling me I can't just be able to choose my partner and then get married and then let that be that if I am getting married, you know? Then they were just like, no, dude, like, we're religious, but we have to pay lobola. What are our people going to think what is my family going to think if now my daughter doesn't get lobola? You know? And then I remember they called my grandmother, they called my whole family from Limbo, everyone. Okay.
So, but now when you say to your parents, guys, thank you so much, but I don't want to get married, what is the response?
It's like they're not listening to me. They're telling me why I have to, because I'm living with this person, right? By the way, I'm not married, I'm not pregnant or anything. Like, this is me as like this third-year student. I'm like, guys, no, man, is this gonna be my life? Like, I'm gonna be fighting to be like single with my parents. And then they were just like, no, dude, like, that's not how we do it. You have to get married. You know the Bible. You know the commandments. You know how this is supposed to go down.
Yes.
Then the 15th came. I remember, I think it was, I remember I spoke to the producer, and I think I told her Saturday, but now I recall it was the Sunday morning. My parents drove all the way from Centurion to the south to our place, and they were coming to collect my lobola.
How?
He already had it prepped. Like, they had told us that, okay, guys, we had another meeting after, and then at his cousin's house. And I remember that's the day I really cried. And I was like, guys, no, you guys can't really be forcing us to get married.
Yes.
And then they were like, no, we've already planned an engagement date. It's been set and so forth. And and I remember I left the apartment, and his cousin came to me and she was like to me, don't worry, we're going to fight that like this doesn't happen, because if you really don't want to get married, then you shouldn't have to. And I felt like, oh, maybe somebody's going to like vindicate and come and fight on my behalf. After that, his family stepped back and they were like, no, we don't support this anymore. His mom was just like, I don't like that black D of yours anyway.
Wow.
So, like, you guys can do whatever you want to do. Now, this is causing friction between him and his family.
Yes.
And he still wants to continue. That's where I was, like, shocked. I was like, dude, you can't be serious now.
So now he was on board of you guys getting married.
100%.
Yes.
And I think the thing that confirmed it for me was the fact that he was willing to pay the lobola. For me, it was like, I fought so that you don't pay such a high amount. Now you're saying, oh, I can pay this much. And I'm like, dude, this is not even how lobola negotiations are supposed to happen in my culture.
Were his uncles and relatives participating in the lobola?
No, it was my parents, his mom, as well as me and him.
Yes.
And then his cousins and his aunt, but there were no uncles, there was no official. And the thing with me is, remember, I'm uncultured.
Yes.
So I don't know how it's supposed to happen unless I've seen it on TV. And I know on TV, there's letters that need to be sent. Hey, you know what I'm saying? I've seen that. So that wasn't happening for me. And I was like, parents, what are you guys doing? Like, I feel like you guys are just selling me off at this point. To say, nah, she chose her life, let her go.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So,
do you feel like there's a part of you that feels like they were trying to, in inverted commas, get rid of you?
I think they were trying to manage the situation.
Yeah.
They were really, because my parents are very, like, overbearing and a bit controlling. And even today, I have to tell them, guys, step back.
Yes.
So they wanted to manage the situation to say, before Faith gets pregnant, before anything happens, or before people find out that she's living with her boyfriend, what are they going to say? Pastor's daughter, unnale boyfriend. Those are the words that they would obviously say to me. And now it was that thing of, no, like, and I remember my dad used to use this word, ampedi. He's like, "Ngwanaka ka sebele thari." You know? And then I remember I called my cousin, I was like, girl, what the hell does the latari mean? And my cousin laughs, she's like, your dad is a savage. Like, how can you call you that? And then she explained to me, she's like, it's a girl that goes out and has sex and then has a child and comes back home with a child and now expects the family to now take her in and take care. And I'm like, but I'm not even pregnant, so why is he tripping? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I remember at that point, I even failed a supplement, like an exam, that first semester of my third year because of all of the stress that I was under with this whole situation. So by the 15th, everybody came through. That morning, my parents came, they collected the lobola money. Basically, it was an exchange. He gave them the money, and then they took the money, and then they're like, okay, cool, guys, we'll see you later on today. And I remember I was looking at my mom, and I was hoping my mom would just be like, you know what, guys, I don't think this is, like, a good idea. And at that point, I had given up. When I saw the invites, and I saw how adamant they were, and they were pushing and pushing and pushing, I gave up. I'm like, yo, guys, Vela, this is going to be my husband. And I remember at the back of my mind, I was like, if this shit doesn't work out, I'm divorcing this nigga. Straight up. And I don't even care at this point. I don't even care if I have to do it alone. I'm going to do it. And it's
so
almost like
you surrendered then afterwards?
I surrendered. I gave in because everybody, like, my grandmother, she's freaking 80-something. You guys pulled this lady from Limpopo for an event that I didn't even agree to. That, I think I was more angry. And I was like, you know what, let this just pass. I just want to focus on school and just be done with them. That was my thing.
So then the day happens, and how was the wedding day?
Well, if you call it a wedding day, it was an engagement announcement. So they leave, we go to Centurion, we get to the church. When we get to the church, the formalities happen. Pastors, one of our pastors' daughters is getting married. This is so amazing. And then he was there, one man. Nobody from his family showed up. Nobody. And then there was a whole clan of my family that was there. They introduced him to my grandmother. And I remember even when they were doing that, I was just like, damn. Like, when as a girl, you visualize the way your gran is going to meet your future husband. And I was like, this is not what I wanted.
Yes.
This is definitely not how I wanted it to go down.
Did you feel like you were just watching yourself, like watching a movie?
I was watching, I tell my sister all the time, I'm like, I was living this fat girl's life. Like, this girl decided, okay, she's going to get into this relationship. She became this chunky babe. And then now she's decided, I don't care about my life anymore. I don't want to do makeup. I don't want to do hair. I just... Like, if he says he knows what's best for me, let him lead. Because remember, the religion is coming in that was instilled in me that a man is a leader. He's the one that has, the head of the household.
Yeah.
So now I can't come and voice my opinions. And I think that's when I realized that the institution of marriage actually suppresses women's voices, especially if you're a woman that never really got to, like, realize your voice,
Yeah.
If you don't know yourself and you get into a marriage and you're like young, what do you expect to happen in 4 or 5 years? We as women, we evolve,
Yes.
and we change. So now what must happen to me now 3 years down the line when I realize, this is not who I want to be. So that's the thing. I was living someone else. I was watching someone else's life and I was just like sitting there like, this poor girl. At least she's got an exit strategy some way. We'll see where it's going to apply. But at this point, girl, just let it be.
So now you guys are, you've gone through with the engagement announcement. When does the marriage actually become official?
The marriage becomes official. So remember, that was my birthday weekend, and then my boyfriend and I went away. And I remember when we went away, he kept on pushing the baby thing. And then I was like, you know what? We're as good as married. Lobola technically means that we're married, so we might as well have a kid. You want a kid? I can't deny you a kid. I get you're the head of the household. We must give each other what we want. So I was like, okay, cool. We can try this baby thing. And then we were actively trying to have a baby. And I remember there was a time we went to the gynae, and I thought that I was pregnant. And the gynae was just like, no, you've got a cyst, so we'll just treat it. And I remember it's almost like that was God saying to me, girl, you don't want this. Like, but if you continue, you're going to get it. Like, I remember the thought at the back of my head was like, if you continue pushing to want to have a baby, eventually it's going to happen. And it did. June, I was like, oh, damn, I'm pregnant. And now he's excited. I'm excited. I'm like, yay.
So this is literally how many months from you guys having an engagement announcement?
Weeks, days.
Yeah.
Weeks, days. Like when we have a conversation on holiday to say we're going to have a baby, the following month, before the 15th of June, I had already known that I was pregnant. And I remember when I told my mom was like, oh no. And I was like, what? It's not a bad thing. She's just like, oh no. Like she just had a very negative reaction. And then I remember I hung up on her. And then the next call that I got was, oh, you guys are definitely getting married and we are going to speak to our main pastor, who's a marriage officer. We're going to set a date for you guys. It's going to happen as soon as possible. The child can't have our surname. He needs to have his father's surname. I'm like, that doesn't require me to sign on a piece of paper. We can just do that. They're like, no, we're doing, now it's like, it's almost like now you're pushing us to push you to get this marriage done.
So when did the marriage now get done?
5th of July, 2015.
And how was that day?
It was a normal Sunday. We woke up and I remember I was pregnant at the time and I was feeling so sick to my stomach. I don't even know if it was because of the fact that I was pregnant or it was the fact that I'm about to make the biggest mistake of my life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Could have been a combination of both.
I remember, and my mom wasn't there on that day. And I think the fact that my mom wasn't there was a sign to say, low-key, she didn't want this to happen.
Why wasn't she there?
She was preaching somewhere.
Okay.
And my dad was there. My sister was there.
Who chose the date, though?
My dad.
Ah, okay.
My dad did everything. My father's the head of the household. He must show the way.
Yeah.
So, he picked the dates and then he told us when to show up. We showed up. It was my dad, my sister, myself, my boyfriend. I don't know if my little brother was there, but I think he was in the car or whatever. And then the 3 pastors, the officiator and his assistants, the 2 assistants. Yeah. So I remember we went into a separate room and the officiator, it was just the 2 of us. He's like, we have to do this part because as an officiator, I need to make sure that you guys want to do this and nobody's forcing you from outside. And I remember when he said that, it's like a pin dropped in the room. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the part where you speak up, Faith.
And you were not able
anything.
to.
I literally didn't say anything.
Did you guys do premarital counseling? Because
that.
it's quite, I know in some churches it's quite a big thing to do premarital counseling in the process of getting married.
No, and I think it goes back to our toxic relationship. It was more about control.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you watched Diary of a Mad Black Woman, where she's like, he alienated me from my family.
Yes.
I felt like that. Eventually, I had no relationship with my family. After the whole wedding, that 5th of July was literally when my family cut themselves off from me.
Yeah.
And he helped them in a sense of, he was like, no, we're definitely not going to bother ourselves with those people. Now we have to live our life for our kid,
Yes.
So, yeah, it was just, it was not normal.
What was pregnancy like?
Pregnancy was terrible for the first trimester was awful. I had terrible morning sickness. I would throw up the moment I got into a car. Motion sickness was bad for me.
Yeah.
I couldn't keep anything down. And I remember I went to the doctor, my gynae at the time, and I was like to him, listen, like, I'm not able to eat. And he's like, you're losing weight. You might just lose this child. You need to do something. So what we're going to do is prescribe you these pills because they're going to help you to keep your stomach so that you don't have so much nausea. And I remember I did my research on the pills and I decided not to take them and went a herbal route because I went online and I went into this rabbit hole of research and I found some research that helped me identify ways that I could actually suppress my morning sickness and be able to carry out my pregnancy. And I did. And I remember I went to my gynae and I was like to him, I found a more herbal route.
Yes.
And he was just like, and I'm like, I've done my research. And I think as I was explaining to him, he was like, okay, I think I get what you're trying to tell me. And it's okay as long as it's working for you.
Yes.
If you have any issues like numbness in the leg, come and let me know and then I'll prescribe something. So I think at that point he knew what I was going for.
Yes.
And then that was it. Like pregnancy became better after I started treating myself.
Yes.
And I think that's when I became to form a relationship with my unborn child because I remember initially it was more of this is a gift I'm giving to this person, right?
Yes.
And then in me being pregnant, I realized, yes, you're gifting this person what they wanted, but you're actually bringing a human to life and you're going to have this person walking this earth. And how is this person going to be able to live a normal life knowing that they came into a situation that was orchestrated?
Yes.
And I think that was the biggest
that you were
guilt.
not 100% on board with.
Exactly. I wouldn't want my son to be forced into marrying somebody just because I feel like he should marry that person,
Yes.
So I think that's when I started, my pregnancy became better after I started treating myself. And then, we fought a lot. We were not okay, the two of us.
Yeah.
I stopped going to church. I lost my spirituality. And I think that's when I started realizing this relationship is not good for me. I started losing pieces of myself as we went. And I remember I was like, you know what? The moment I drop this baby, I'm going to get my body right and get a job and this and that. And then the moment I started having those conversations, they were shut down very, 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 very abruptly, quickly. He was like, you're not going to work. You're going to be a stay-at-home mom. You don't need to work. I'm going to take care of everything. And I'm like, but I actually want to work. He's like, no, I'm not going to be with a girl that wants a wife that is going to want to work.
Yeah.
At this point, my parents are not there to vouch for me. And it was okay, your destiny's set in stone. And I remember it was when he started telling me, you don't need to wear makeup. Why are you wearing makeup? Or he's from a Hindu background. So there was a point where he was trying to convince me to wear a punjab. And I was like, boy, what are you saying? He's like, no, my mom used to wear it when she was pregnant with me. So
you mean the headscarf or the hijab?
The whole, thing,
Yes.
He literally was like, you should wear it. He got me 2 of them from his mom's wardrobe. And he was like, you should complete the outfit. And I was like, that's when I realized, I was like, nah, guys, this is not, I can't. I really can't. And then I gave birth in February of 2016. My son was 6 months when I was sitting on the patio and I was like, I'm going to leave this marriage. And I don't care if my parents have
a problem with it. So now, you decided that this is not working out when baby's 6 months. Mm-hmm. What was for you the beginning of the end of the marriage?
When he didn't want me to get a job.
Yeah.
And he didn't want me to go to the gym. And he didn't want me to go to see my family. And he didn't want my mom to come and be there with me when my son was still very, very small. In the Black community, your mom is supposed to be with you for the first couple of weeks to teach you how to really be a mom.
Yes.
He actually blatantly denied and he refused. He was like, you guys are not coming to my house.
Wow.
My mom and your mom are not coming. We're going to learn how to be parents together.
Yes.
And I think that's when it just started going downhill. But those specific reasons were my reasons.
Yeah.
Even when I was in divorce meetings with my lawyer, he was like, I just need you to just give me a couple of reasons so that if ever you needed to explain why you, like, we're saying these are, what's irreconcilable differences, right? Yeah. So if it's that, I just need you. So those are my reasons to say, like, that's not me. Like, this person wants me to be somebody that I'm not. And I think I'm ready to, like, now say, no, like, I can't do this anymore.
Was when you actually had to now go and tell your family, or you decided to go say, guys, I've decided to end this, what was their reaction?
So my dad actually said the statement to me. He was like to me, because I remember I got to a point where I was so overwhelmed and I started speaking to my sister, like without him knowing, because he would go through my phone and check my texts and things like that. So I would call my sister when he was out of the house and my sister would convey messages to my mom. And I remember we were living with his mom at the time. And my dad, I was calling my mom the one time crying about what was happening, like the things I was going through in the house and stuff. And then my dad grabbed the phone. He was like, listen here, pack your bags and call me when you're ready to come home before you end up like Riva. He hung up the phone.
Wow.
And that was it.
Did you do that?
100%. Because now they could see that I was in an abusive, emotionally, psychologically abusive relationship.
Yeah.
And they could see that their child was actually going to deteriorate at this point because my parents know me to be an overachiever. I actually did a lot of things before this guy came into my life. So those 2-3 years of my life, I wasn't myself. And I think they started to realize that, you know what, actually Faith is ready to like leave this person. And now we see that this person is not good for her.
Yeah. Have they ever come to you and said, yo, we're sorry that we pushed you into doing this?
No, they don't acknowledge that they pushed me into the marriage. In their eyes, I think, and this is me speaking for them, I think in their eyes, they think that they were doing the best thing that they could do at the time.
Yeah.
And they were trying to manage the situation, like I said. You know, it's almost like a PR company trying to make sure that the story comes out the correct way, you know?
Yes.
So they've never, my mom once, we had a conversation once and she was just like to me, stop punishing yourself because we forgave you a long time ago for what you did.
Meaning what?
What did I do again?
What did you do?
You know? And then...
Or are they referring to living with a boyfriend without...
Yes.
Okay, I understand.
The betrayal. I betrayed them by going and lying to them and like going to live with my boyfriend, and then they had to come in and manage the situation. And then obviously now I eventually got to a point where I wanted to divorce this person.
Yes.
And when the divorce went down, they weren't there. I went to court by myself and I went through that whole process alone. So for her, it's just like, you know what, we forgive you. So forgive yourself so we can all move on. And I'm like, but guys, do you understand? I went through a lot of trauma back there. And I feel like we need to actually talk about this.
Yeah.
So you guys can understand that like there's some things that you guys did and that you might continue to do to my other siblings.
Yes.
And you guys need to do better. Because like, do you want all your kids to turn out to be like me, like where I don't want to be around my parents because they always just want to take over my situation, you know? Like, I can't tell my mom that I'm dating somebody. I can't tell my mom that I'm having sex. She asks me, but I don't tell her because I'm not comfortable having those conversations with her. And I've told her, and she gets so sad. And I'm like, don't be sad. It's not, you can't force me to open up to you when you guys couldn't protect me in a time I needed you guys to actually come through as my parents. So,
do you think if they hadn't pushed the marriage that you guys would have eventually just broken up?
100%.
Yeah.
If anything, I probably would not have gotten pregnant had they not pushed for the marriage. Like, I probably would not have agreed to have a child because in that first sitting, when his mom was like, they living in sin, they need to get married.
Yes.
I felt like that was a moment where they could have been like, cool, why don't we just opt for a better solution to rather show them what marriage is going to be like. Like you said, pre-marital counseling.
Yes.
I didn't have that, you know? Yes. And even by the time that we were married, they wanted us to go to it. And when you go there, you realize, we definitely not going to work out because of the information you're getting from premarital counseling. And then also you don't even stay in counseling that long because he doesn't want to go to a counselor and be talking about his problems. So it was just like,
a lot of things.
It was a lot, but like I got to a point where I was just like, you know what, I need to just be one of those people that can make decisions without my parents. I need to be able to be my own individual person, be responsible and accountable for those decisions that I make and not expect to say, oh, but my mom and my dad did this. And
I'm actually glad you're saying that, because the question I wanted to ask you is, in the whole situation, what do you take responsibility for?
I take responsibility for getting into a relationship with somebody when I was in a very depressed state in my life. I was very depressed in university. And I think that's another reason why I wanted to do the show. I wanted girls to understand that, like, varsity is a very huge adjustment. And as a girl, when I got, I'm getting emotional.
It's okay.
When I got to varsity, I felt like I was thrown into the deep end.
Yeah.
And I didn't have my parents to go to and say, oh my gosh, this is happening on campus and this is happening on campus, and I'm so unfamiliar with it, because the only sexual parental guidance that I got or relationship advice I got from my parents was through sermons in church when they were preaching to other youth. And I was sitting there and I'm listening and I'm just like, oh. She just shouted at me now in the car for what I was wearing. But now she's here telling me that when we have sex, we are souls and we separate like papers, and you know what I'm saying? So it was hard for me to, and I remember I had an argument with my mom about it recently. I was like to her, sometimes you need to be able to separate yourself from being a pastor and a mother. Like, come into a conversation and be my mom. Don't come into a conversation and be Minister Mang Mang who's trying to make an example with their child. No, I don't need that. So for me, varsity was just like, I was thrown into the deep end. And the one thing I learned from this whole experience was that no matter what kind of an environment you're in, choose what you want, who you want to be in that environment. I mean, I watched one of your episodes with the lady that used to like defraud people.
Yes.
And she was like, when she got institutionalized, I think I felt like that lady hit the nail on the head, where she's like, she got institutionalized and she got to a point where she had to make a decision and say, what kind of a person do I want to be while I'm in here? Am I going to get rehabilitated, or am I just going to continue being
while
the way that I am? You know? So I think I felt like I was down and out in varsity, and I ran into this relationship to say, maybe if I date somebody, maybe I'll feel something and they'll make me feel like I matter, because I felt like I didn't matter to my parents. I was so far away.
Were you hoping that he would rescue you in some way?
100%. I remember when my dad was like, let's go home, I felt like, no. He stepped in, he was like, no, she doesn't have to leave. And I was like, yeah, he's rescuing me from having to go to my parents so that they can continue controlling my life.
Yes.
Because Lord knows what happens. They might just pull me out of university if I leave with them and I actually want to complete my studies. You know, my young mind at the time was just going different directions. But yeah, that's literally, I just felt like I was being rescued, but at the same time, it wasn't a rescue. It was a prison. I was taking myself into this prison, and I was literally denying myself of who I was so that I can please him and turn myself into the person he wanted me to be.
So where would you say you are today, just in terms of, well, you know, the marriage is over, is the divorce finalized, and where are you emotionally and mentally at the moment?
The divorce got finalized in February of 2019. And right now, today, we're trying to, we're not even trying, like, we're not agreeing. Let me just be honest. Like,
in terms of the co-parenting.
I haven't seen my son in about 2 months.
Yes.
And it's unfortunate because the families don't want to get involved. Again, my parents don't want to get involved. They say it's not their business. His family's supporting him and standing by him. So I'm alone. So me being in therapy, I'm realizing, again, accountability. Be responsible. It's your child at the end of the day. Do what you need to do in your power. So I'm again in a legal battle. But I'm realizing I don't need to go chase after my parents for answers anymore. I don't need to go ask them, what do you think of this? And if they're not happy with the decision I make, I must be able to deal with those consequences. So today I'm more accountable. I've grown a lot. And I think I want other girls to see me as a sign of hope. To say, if you are right now in that relationship that is making you feel like this is not who I am, I want to achieve this and I want to achieve that, but your family is not being what you expect them to be, like the supportive, structured family, it's okay to step out on your own, you know?
So if I may ask then, what would you say, or what would be the reason that you haven't been able to see your son in the past 2 months?
Control.
Yeah.
He wants to be in control. My parents can't go pick up my son unless I'm there.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So I work in the entertainment industry.
Yes.
I don't have regular hours. The court order, when we came up with our court order, I was working a 9 to 5, he was unemployed.
Yes.
And that's where I realized I blundered, and my parents were not there to also rescue me because they were not there with me when I was going through my divorce proceedings and were not able to guide me with my lawyer.
Yes.
I opted to say the child can live with you and your mom because your mom is unemployed. You're unemployed at this point in time. I'm working. So you guys can be full-time caregivers while he was 2 years old. And then I'll come and get him on the weekends. I had a car at the time.
Yeah.
So I was trying to be nice. And now that niceness backfires on me because today the court order states I must collect my child on a Friday and drop him off on a Sunday. But Friday and a Sunday, I'm deep on the decks.
Yes.
And I can't do that. So my family is supposed to do that. But now my child is telling me on the phone, I don't want to go to Gogo's house. I don't like going to Gogo's house.
Yes.
Since when? I don't want to come to your house until the coronavirus is gone. That's the new line now. My son tells me he's only going to come and see me when coronavirus is gone. So I've gotten to a point where I don't want to distress my child. There's a saying, when 2 elephants are fighting, it's the grass that gets damaged.
Yeah.
When he and I fight, we fight. Like, we cuss each other out and it's bad. So I've stepped away. I'm rehabilitating myself in terms of I'm in therapy.
Yeah.
And the information I'm receiving from my therapist is that give it time. A child is going to grow up. And if he is being trained to dislike you or he's being alienate, like, you know how baby mamas will alienate their children from the fathers?
Yeah.
That's happening with me. And it's so crazy when I tell people, they're like, you're lying. I'm like, guys, I promise you, I'm having baby daddy drama, you know? And that's my truth, you know?
Yes.
So I'm hoping that in the future, things are going to get better. I mean, my court order ends next year, so I'm definitely going to be going back to court. I've got legal bills, but at the end of the day, I have to be able to get through it, you know? So for my son, I'm journaling as well. My therapist was like to me, a friend of mine actually advised me to journal. And it's like, write a journal of everything that's happening for your son. Yeah. So that the day he comes and he's like, Mom, why did you abandon me? Why were you not visiting me? Why was this? And then I can actually give it to him and be like, listen, I called you on this particular day. We had a conversation. I wrote the conversation down. This is how I felt about it. And this is what I went through trying to be your mom. But because of the relationship your father and I had and the way it ended in such a bad way, he's not able to heal. I'm not able to heal because we're not talking. You know? So unfortunately, I couldn't be there for you as a mom. But that does not mean that I'm not sitting at home on my days that I'm off and I'm thinking about my son. And saying, oh my gosh, I could be spending this time with him, but I can't because there's this court order and he's using this court order to his advantage and there's no reasoning with him. My lawyer once told me, he's like, Faith, we as your lawyers can't prove that he's being unreasonable. If he says, I'm not going to bring the child for you, come and fetch him, and he doesn't want to be fetched by anybody else but you.
No, I hear you, and I think these circumstances can be very tricky and very complicated, and we trust in our court systems to put the best interests of the child at heart. So I hope that that is what reigns in the end. What would you consider getting married again? Or has this situation just made you completely switch off from the idea?
So I always tell people that I want a wedding. Like, I would love to go through that process of amalobolo negotiations, like proper, you know, families coming together, the blankets, you know, that mukete, you know, I would love to experience a wedding. But I think because of the experience I had, I don't believe in the institution of marriage where you involve the state in a relationship between two people. If we want to be together let us be together. If we decide we want to bind our relationship with having this legal document with the state, so be it. But I'm not chasing after marriage.
Yes.
And another thing is like,
so there is a possibility, but it's not something that you're like after right now.
if it happens, it happens.
Yes.
But I'm okay. I believe in happily married or happily single. If I'm not going to get happily married, I'd rather be happily single.
No, and I think that's the way that it should be. And I think your story is a sad one because I think you were quite young at the time, and our parents have a very big influence on us and the decisions that we make. And even if their intentions were true and correct or good for them at the time, it manifested into what is happening today. Mm-hmm. But I hope that for you, that your child is the priority, but also your healing journey and your happiness, and that you can come out of this stronger with a great relationship with your son. And I thank you so much, obviously, for coming through to the show, for coming to share your story and being so real and open about it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Faith. #Unpacked with Relebogile. Engage with us on the socials. And if something in this conversation resonated with you, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Share your stories. Thank you so much, as always, for joining in on the conversation and for watching us. Have a good night. Next time on Unpacked.
All I remember was bright lights and the car spinning and
How bad were the injuries?
at first I was thinking, why is there water, all over my face? I could have lost my life. My children would have right now be living without a mother, all because of a drunken driver.
Thank you so much for watching Unpacked with Relebogile Mabotja. Make sure you subscribe to my channel where you can get to watch more episodes. But more importantly, you can be part of our online community. Comment down below, share with us who you'd like to see on the show, or what story you'd like us to discuss. We love engaging with you. Keep it coming and don't forget to subscribe.